this video, I would like to give my opinion about why Kamala Harris lost the US presidential elections. Greetings, family. Welcome back to my channel. Trust everyone is well. Millions of Democrats in America are now in sorrow after Donald Trump was triumphant in the US presidential elections. Persons are wondering, how did a Taylor Swift endorsement not result in a victory for the Democrats? Persons are wondering, how did Meg Thee Stallion twerk on stage and Kamala Harris is not the President of the United States today? There was a star-studded list of actors and entertainment personalities that have all thrown their hats behind Kamala Harris, or Kamala, as I think it's supposed to be pronounced. And family, in this video I will endeavor to give some observations that I believe played a role in the Republicans scoring a victory in the recent election. Okay, family. The thing is, persons are now claiming that celebrity endorsements are no longer sufficient to secure a victory. Celebrity endorsements appear to have been vilified by last evening's vote tally. In my opinion, it seems to me that the votes were tallied very quickly in Republican states, but the Democratic victories were all delayed. At one point, Trump had about 105 electoral college votes, and Kamala Harris had about 30. So I was surprised to see that at the end of the night, Donald Trump had 277 and Kamala Harris had 216. So an argument can be made that had they tallied all of the states that were favorable to Kamala, she could have also arrived at this tally ahead of Donald Trump. But that's neither here nor there. You have to let the chips fall where they may. And I believe some of the issues that came into play were misogyny, race, xenophobia, and U.S. foreign policy. Okay, family. And so, without further ado, let me get into the discussion and the reaction to last night's red wave for the Republican Party. I found that the use of misogyny by the Republican Party was very effective with influencing the voters. There was this immediate campaign to make assertions about her fidelity. Persons were saying that Kamala Harris slept around. Persons were saying that in order to become the vice president, Kamala Harris slept with a lot of people in Washington. And I found that this rhetoric was effective with both men and women. I found that misogyny, for some strange reason, resonated with millions of women in America. And even the bill pertaining to abortion rights failed because Americans, in terms of their opinions about abortion, tend to take a more conservative approach, as do I. I am not a supporter of abortion, but there were many issues that were exploited by the Republican Party regarding Kamala Harris. Persons were calling her camel toe, and there was this campaign to mispronounce her name and spell it in all sorts of racist and ignorant ways. And so I believe that the Republican Party and Donald Trump have made a lot of insinuations about Kamala Harris's character, and I believe it is only because she is a woman. Nobody has ever made any assertions about male politicians. Only with the exception of somebody like Bill Clinton, you've not found that many male politicians have had infidelity thrown at them without even any type of basis, you know. But because Kamala Harris is a female, they will make assertions and they will make speculations about whether or not she's a faithful woman or that she's promiscuous, so on and so forth. And I don't believe that should have even been a part of the political discourse. But as I said, for some strange reason, both men and women in America of various religions and faiths found that this use of misogyny was appropriate and had a place in the political discourse. You know, Christian conservatives, there are some individuals that will not vote for a woman to be the president because, according to strict Christian guidelines, they don't believe that a woman should hold high office or be the leader in any capacity, right? And so there are some individuals who simply could not be convinced that there could be a female president of the United States. It's never happened before, and I think the fact that it's never happened before underscores the fact that persons don't accept a woman in leadership. You know, but before the video gets too long, let me just move on to another observation that I noticed. In terms of immigration, I found that the use of xenophobia was effective in galvanizing Trump's supporters. You know, xenophobia was actually employed as a major part of their arsenal. If you can recall the most recent rally in which the host of Kill Tony was speaking at the Republican rally, and he called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. He made cotton picking jokes about African people and on even a watermelon joke, right? And yet still, racism and anti-immigrant xenophobia was resonating with both men and women in America, with blacks, with whites, Indians, Chinese, Filipino American, African Americans from the continent. Even persons from Haiti voted for Donald Trump in large numbers around America. And Donald Trump recently said that Haitians were eating dogs. He recently said that Haitians were eating cats. Yet still, the anti-immigrant rhetoric was effective and it resonated with the voters in America, right? So even that, I believe, as Sir P, popular Jamaican vlogger, often says, I think that is something that needs to be studied. That is something that really needs to be studied, because I don't know how a nation that is comprised of mostly immigrants would actually respond and actually connect with an anti-immigrant message, right? And in my opinion, the anti-immigrant message didn't really reach fever pitch until black immigrants became the subject, all right? Because for more than a year, states around the United States were complaining that refugees from Middle Eastern countries were being bussed into their cities, and they had to foot the bill of housing individuals in school facilities, hotels. They were getting jobs. They were even able to get driver's licenses. Some were found to be committing crimes, but it never really reached fever pitch until Haitians and the cat and dog fiasco really took root, and bore some fruit. So it seems to me that the rhetoric of misogyny, seems to me that the rhetoric of racism and xenophobia, despite how regressive they may be, despite how negative they may be, were very effective in political campaigning in America. Okay? And my third and final observation, I would like to ask a question. Do you believe that the ousting of the Democrats from the presidential office was an indictment of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's foreign policy? I ask this question because, the tragedy which is currently taking place in Gaza and Lebanon was actually precipitated with the aid of the US government and some financing, the supplying of weapons. And so, even in the international community, there's the perception that America has been supplying weapons and basically facilitating a genocide by providing the weapons consistently, despite the numerous human rights abuses, despite the careless and provocative activities taking place from Israel. The US government has been giving it support. And so, in some way, it could be said that this election result was a repudiation of that foreign policy, as America is currently populated by numerous descendants of Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. All of these people have had some of their citizens migrate to America. And it could be that persons voted against American foreign policy, which has been basically complicit in a genocide. So we don't know if any of these factors or all of these factors played a role. But in my opinion, from the outside looking in, it seems to me that these were some of the considerations that brought about Kamala Harris's defeat. But family, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all these dynamics. One love.